guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the operators of this radio station.
Ah, boy. Mr. Roker, what you say, man? How you doing? Man, I hear you got some of them guns called the Super Soakers. Yeah. What's the prices on them, man? $45.95. And give me one or two of them, man. I can invite Peter Roker to buy me a Super Soaker.
Good afternoon. This is Peter Roker. Global Talk on Global Radio 99.5. Really, really good to be with you this lovely day. And I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everybody's doing fine. And for those who are not doing fine, I hope you will be doing better later on, okay? And certainly, good to be alive, okay? Now, this is my second show on my resumption of Global Talk being on Global Radio. I had an absence for a while, but the show's been going on for about 7 years. I want to mention the phone numbers here are 326-0271 or 326-0272. And my cell number for now and anytime you wish to call me is 424-0749. And for those who may not know about the show, it's a show that I do myself. I don't really have any advertisers except for the businesses that I may be associated with. Also some of my friends. So it's not one of those high-profile advertising shows, and thus not trying to infer that having a bunch of advertisers will sway whatever you're saying or doing on your show, but just to say that, we are really, really independent, and we are definitely free in the real sense of the word. Now, I wouldn't say my shows are entirely, what should I say, conservative, or they are entirely radical, but they deal with things in our society that I have an opinion on, and that I throw things out, ideas. And, I feel personally that imagination is probably one of the greatest things to have. And, for a number of years prior to me reading something in Miami or seeing something in Miami, maybe going back 5 years ago, kind of like doubted myself. Why do I think imagination is so important? Why do I think it's so valuable? And I was in an office in Miami and saw something on the wall that said, it is more important to have imagination than knowledge. Now, this was extremely profound to me, very profound, because what it was saying is that you didn't have to be a high school graduate. You didn't have to be a college graduate. You didn't have to be anything, but if you had imagination, you were doing pretty good. So I asked the gentleman that I was dealing with, could I write down that information? And he said, no, don't write it down. I have a copy of that in my desk drawer. So he went in his desk drawer and he came back out with a copy of it. And it not only said the same thing, but it gave the name of the author. And I normally, when I speak about this very often. I normally ask people to guess who it was, but I'm not going to do that. It was Albert Einstein. It was the holy cow. Holy cow. When he died, one very, very famous university got his brain to study because this man was so intelligent. It was beyond, not to make a pun, right? But beyond imagination. And so with all that academic knowledge, being being the person who had the formula for the atomic bomb, which he always, regretted coming to that point. But nonetheless, he's saying that imagination is more important than knowledge. So boy, listen, I grabbed that And I've been holding that ever since, because I'm not fearful to say I feel I have a lot of imagination. Now, having said that, just remember one thing: imagination gets you in trouble. Imagination gets you in a lot of trouble, plenty of trouble. Because, see, when you imagine something, a lot of times other people or persons cannot imagine that. And so when you go in there, I remember years ago, I won't say who it was because that's immaterial, but I had gone to a government minister and said that I had this idea on more than one occasion of what I wanted to do. At that time, it was something similar to a golf cart, but something that would have been qualified to be on the roads. I thought, well, little frills around there, man, and this thing on the road and touristic and whatever else. But the minister didn't see it the way I saw it and quickly ushered me out of his office. Okay, that don't make no sense. I don't. That's foolish, right? So, I didn't give up on my imagination. I never did. And since then, during my whole of my life, when I see solar, that is imagination. When I go on Facebook, I spend a lot of time on Facebook. And you know what I'm reading about? I'm reading about the little guy in Malaysia that's building little vehicles that Ford and Toyota is not building. I see people who are cooking a different method, different way. I see people, particularly who are gardening in a different way. And that's what I spend my time. And how that spikes my imagination and how that sets my mind on fire in terms of what can be done. And on my show, many, many times, I would speak about this. My son, who one time supplied out in the Far East, I forget which island, which island it was, but he was remarking that one island that he flew to quite a bit, way in the Far East, way out past Australia in that area, saying that they didn't throw away their bottles. They crushed them and used them. And so I went on a Chinese website, Indian website, American website, and bottle crushers is no big deal. It is no big deal. And I haven't really had the time, but I would imagine that an engineer or just a common person in the street could probably say that this crushed, I might say crushed, it brings it back to sand, can be used in molds, could be used in coatings, could be used in so many different things, could be used in roadworks and whatever else. And the stark fact of the matter is that, we are disposing of thousands and thousands and thousands of tons of glass bottle. Tons of it. I see Sans Beer is now buying bottles again. I'm very happy about that. To recycle them. I'm not sure whether the other companies are. I'm not saying they're not, but I noticed a sign up on East Bay Street that they are. So anyhow, that is what imagination, in my opinion, is about. It's not saying what is being done, but more so what can be done. But I've written 3 things down here so far, and that number might increase. But the first thing I have on is Africa, then I have on traffic, and then I have on farming. And I'm going to switch over to Africa. Now you need to bear with me, because I'm no history expert. Listen, in school, I just loved history. I would sit there. We had a teacher, Mrs. White, when I was in the fourth grade at Eastern Senior, and she could really relay anything. I mean, she would talk, and you would just listen, and you could almost, listening to her words, you would almost just be exactly where. If she told a story, and they had stories back in the day, you were there. You were next to Huckleberry Finn, okay? You were next to them. Any story that she told, but nonetheless, you know, during that time, there was the beginning of what they called the winds of change in Africa. That huge, huge, huge continent consisting of so many, many, many countries. And it is so, although the Bahamas is so far away, it is so much tied to the Bahamas. It is our family. It is our relatives that far away that we don't know in most cases. And next week, there's going to be, I think on the weekend, I will have one word here, or maybe a couple of words, the Export-Import Bank. I think that the whole idea about this event is for Africa to come to the Bahamas. I guess I'm sure they've been here before in terms of many, many different things, many, many different. I'm not saying they haven't been here before, but this is now, I sense this to be the opening of a relationship between the Bahamas and Africa, and I welcome it. I mean, I totally and absolutely welcome it. Because, you know, a number of years ago, I'm not sure the place is still there. I doubt very seriously if it's still there. But a number of years ago, if you go beyond the American embassy, as I remember, there's a beautiful little cottage. I mean, really, really beautiful little cottage. And they had an African store in there. And I met the owner. I was extremely impressed as to the trouble he'd gone through to bring African imports to the Bahamas. And the fact that he was making a stab toward exposing the Bahamian public to some of what Africa had to offer. And I was extremely impressed, and I was extremely, you know, sort of interested in how could I be a part of this? How could I, learn more and so forth. I was in the south of France a number of years ago, and boy, listen, it was my hope to have gone to Africa because, Africa's right across the pond. I didn't get a chance to, and I regret that, but I will as soon as I am able to go there. But then again, I was in a store in all places, the middle of Fort Pierce, of all places, right? And there was a little small, and that's in the city now. That's not where Walgreens, or not Walgreens, but that's not where Walmart is or whatever else. That's right in the city center. There was a shopping area, not the plaza type shopping area, but nonetheless a shopping area at restaurants, nice little shops. But the most prominent shop in there was a store that specialized in African products, operated by an African, big tall guy with a beard on, very, very articulate. And they truly had African products. And, it consisted of shea butter and the big blocks, statues. I bought some clothes. I bought, I think, a couple of pieces of garments and stuff, and bought some other stuff, right? But they had a phenomenal amount of, not phenomenal, everything they had was Africa. And truly, Africa, even in the sense of fashion and indigenous cosmetic material, um, cultural objects, or whatever, that store showed you, displayed to you what Africa, some of the things Africa could offer, right? It was like a hidden secret, okay? Of course, I know that my good friend Andrew Wilson either has a shop or had a shop, I think on Bay Street, which is fully dedicated to African products. I don't know if he still has it or not quite sure. And I know I've seen some attire down in one of his shops down by the mall. But that's, by the way, what is really now interesting is this, is that, African nations, I know, because I was a part of that era, that went through a tremendous amount of changes from blatant colonialism. I would say offhand that the British government was maybe happy to get rid of us. I'm not saying they were, but maybe, I'm saying maybe. But boy, you know what? Those African nations, they had minerals, they had values that were exploited, of course. Those values were exploited, no doubt about that. But I don't think I can be corrected. I always stand to be corrected. But I don't believe there was ever any African nation that got their freedom and independence just like that. I don't think there was, from the Portuguese, from the Spanish, from the English, from the Dutch, from the French, and maybe some other nation I haven't mentioned. But I don't think any of them got their independence just by saying, you know what, time to let us go. And they say, okay, fine, get your internal self-government going first, which we did. And then fine, you show us you can do that and you get your independence, right? So I know I can remember bloody wars going on. I mean, when you go back to Rhodesia and think about Ian Smith and what that country went through and the reluctance to end apartheid and to have majority rule. I mean, I remember all the battles concerning that. South Africa didn't get it just like that. So when we look around and talk about Africa, we have to do so in different ways. But at the end of the day, we as Bahamians, I would venture to say, yes, maybe a big majority of some of us are partly descended or fully descended from some, say, Nigeria, for argument's sake. But I believe that our country maybe represents a huge, that we can find at least one person, enough people to say we almost, if not, represent the entire Africa. Okay? So, and not all that became as slaves, but some would have come by choice, okay? And so when we look at today, when we fast forward today and say that this event is going to happen in the Bahamas, we also have to say, what does it mean to us? What does it mean to us as Bahamians? And to try and answer that question myself, I would say it represents opportunity. I would say it represents sensible opportunity. Because if I were to believe that Africa is about killing and protest and whatever, I would be mistaken. I believe that Africa is about being articulate, being cutting edge, and being very, very competitive any country in the world. Now I'm going to throw something out. But before I do that, I'm going to say that just recently on Facebook, I'm going to be going back to Facebook. That's why I told you I go to Facebook pretty often. And I have a good reason to go there. This white man, I mean, he's so white that he's wheat. Okay. The man white. The man white, got a white hair, got a white beard. And he was pointing out, you see, you gotta watch these things. Kill my boy, kill Whitey, kill Whitey, or Black Lives Matter, that sort of stuff. Hey, stop. This man listed off, could have been maybe 20 different individuals who were persons of color who had made impact on this world, not this era, this area, on this world, in terms of telecommunications, in terms of farming, medicine, surgery, and that person, I'm not saying he was being goody two shoes about this, but the man was stating the facts of the tremendous contribution that persons of African descent or partially of African descent have made in North America and in the world. And so I believe that this event happening next week will be about that. It'll be about using the Bahamas as a forum to discuss what Africans and Bahamians can do in the Bahamas. It makes sense. And to be able to show the rest of the world that there's no question about the ability of Africans to compete very aggressively on the world stage and this part of the world. Okay? I would, and so we have been accustomed, and I'm not trying to fault anyone, but we have been accustomed to business as usual in this part of the world. And whatever is dictated to us, we have to accept. If the bank say they can loan you no money, we accept it. Okay? If the insurance company doing a bunch of foolishness, we accept it. Like a little boys club. Like, you know what? I'll give you an example. A number of years ago, I went to an extremely large company in the U.S. that sold building supplies, lumber. They were lumber and plywood. I won't mention the name. It's not important. I think the people went out of business anyhow. But I went there and said I wanted to buy product from them. Oh, no problem at all. Where are you from? Well, from Nassau. Okay, no problem at all. Make one telephone call to the person they were selling product to in Nassau. Come back to me. Can't I sell it to you? I said, well, why? Well, why? Well, because we have people we sell to in the Bahamas. I said, hey, stop. The Bahamas is an independent country. So how can you tell me that you cannot sell product to me. And that we don't have to tell you that. We decided that. So so what I'm saying to you, I'm not saying that Africa can come in here now and be the solution to everything. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that the more we are exposed to the international forum, and the more we are exposed to our relatives, because you see, it's very easy. I'm coming to the point. I'm telling you very bluntly. It's extremely easy for someone to totally discount a person and the country. Oh, they're no good. They're no good. They're a bunch of thieves, or or that racket they got going on. That's a bunch of shysters or whatever, right? And if you think that's done just because someone is angry, you better think again, because a lot of times that is being done intentionally to cause economic conditions, to be more competitive. It's not good, no. I think I'm coming on to a break, but I didn't hear the music. That was my music, man. Put the music on. Let the music go. That's the fastest doggone half an hour I have ever seen in my entire life. I hope the rest of my life will go that fast. There you go. Let's get some music, Jason. Oh yeah, super so good.
I don't want them too slim. I want them nice and bright and real good, look like them treat them. Have date a Jamaican, have date me a Haitian.
Okay, this is Peter Roker again. Pay my bills. Gotta pay my bills. Gotta pay my bills. Okay, nothing is for free. So boy, the bill gotta be paid, because Global Radio, they don't mess around, boy. They say, listen, we can give you a good deal, but if you don't pay, don't bother coming here on Saturday. Jason laughing. Hey, Jason, that's what they say, boy. You got 2 thumbs up. And you know what? I don't blame them, buddy, okay? Collect your money, boy. Collect your money. Okay, I have in my hand, I don't know if you can see it, but there it is. It was in the Tribune, I think on Thursday, right? And it's from my good buddies, Builders Discount Depot Ltd, better known as BDD. Now, they're located on Ballard Road off of Somali Butler Highway. And you can drive straight on Ballard Road from that end, because Ballard Road is one way, or from Faith Avenue. And if you go just a little past Ballard Road, you're able to enter the property or the entrance, okay? Now, they're Johnny come lately, just been in business for about 7-8 months. But boy, they got hard, okay? They got hard, man. Listen. And you know what? Let me just put a clip right there for a second. I remember, oh Lordy, slipped my mind now, but my Lord. When I was a little child growing up, the way I heard ads came to me years later. And I don't have these fancy ads with blowout sale and 50% off and 70% off. I like to talk to you, okay? I like to get in your head. And I can tell you right now, this Builders Discount Depot, BDD, has heart. And their motto is, we are here to serve you. Now, this last Thursday, they came up with a program where they're saying buy bulk and save. I'm going to quickly kind of like tell you what they said. And they said gray cement, 15, 36, 40 bags plus. White masonry cement, 24.9, 40 bags plus. Roofing plywood, 4x8 by 5/8, 25.99, 60 sheets plus. Gray select, $98, 3 plus. Now, the thing is this, is that you can buy these items one at a time at a great price. There's no question all about that. But what these people are doing down there is they're saying to you, you know what, if you're doing a house, no matter how small it is, you're probably going to need at least 60 sheets of plywood. So buy a whole thing, because you're going to save about maybe $7-8 a sheet, you see? And that applies to cement, applies to the Grace Select, it applies to everything. The other thing too is I do know that they will be starting a new tile program very shortly, very, very shortly. But they do have some tiles that they are selling off. They're giving a good price on that, especially for, persons who might say, listen, but I'll take all of them, or I'll take half of them, or whatever. So you need to check into that, because they are good porcelain tiles. Now they'll be starting a tile program moving forward, which will of course be at tremendous prices. But right now it's some special deal on that thing, on that quantity they have now. Okay. Unwrapped architectural shingles, $29.99 a bundle, 32 or more. Wrapped architectural shingles, $33.99, 32 or more. Now, the phone numbers for them is 422-2851, 605-6420. And they're open now. Here's the kicker. Remember they said here to serve you? They're open from 6:30 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, and from 7 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock on Sundays and holidays. Now, Jason, I made a record where I got my commercial done in 5 minutes, right? Give me a prize, man. I need a prize for that. Okay. Okay, give me a thumbs up. Thank you very much.
Man, I hear got some of them guns called the Super Soakers. Yeah. What's the prices on them, man? $45.95. And give me one or two of them, man.
I got my feet up. Okay, back on the go. And Jason was in good mood this morning, but he's smiling. He must have got a hot day later on. Hey. I ain't talking business now. Okay, getting back to Africa. And, so we're dealing with, when we would have seen a person or monkey going in space, in a spaceship, and then, of course, a human being going in space, that was something new to happen during our time. Going to the Mars is during our time. And what I sense is happening is that we're going to see something regarding Africa, the continent of Africa, doing something in our country, and indeed in this part of the world during our time. And I would treasure being a part of that. Not because of, blood relations, but because of the fact that the African achievement has to come out. It cannot be done so in anger. It cannot be done so in frustration. It must be done so in reality of what it means to persons of African descent, and not only of persons of African descent, but indeed the entire world. Because there are other persons who don't have a 1 millimeter of a drop of African blood that would like to see Africa do well. Okay? And they're doing well. They're doing extremely well. They've done extremely well. And now the ability to start to kindle this little fire, and to them to come in the Bahamas, not that they haven't been here before, don't get me wrong. Some of our streets are named by African leaders, okay? I have good friends. Dr. Magnus, a good friend of mine. Kelvin, good friend of mine. His brother living in Canada, good friend of mine. But to be able to establish a presence not on a charitable basis, but on a commercial basis. Now, what I was saying a while ago, well, sometimes you have these wishes, right? But you know what I would love to see? I would love to see our government make arrangements with Africa and allow them to have buy as much land as we gave the Freeport in Grand Bahama, and for them to be obligated to bring Africa in the true sense now, to this part of the world. And that would even include the agriculture, the types of food that be grown here, certain forms of farming and production and whatever. Because this part of the world needs that. This part of the world needs that. The Bahamas needs that. Because, when I drive throughout New Providence, I see too much foolishness. I see people who are in dire straits, people who seem to be hopeless, despaired. And I can't say why I got my ideas, right? But the point being that for the Bahamas, and indeed for the rest of the world, in my opinion, the way to combat is to be more capable than the next person. Now, I'm presently still watching it actually, Hitler during World War II. And those guys had the Olympics, and Jesse Owens, man, they turned one doggone ugly face on that when Jesse Owens beat the living daylights out of them. Because how could an African American, a person of color, come to this pure Caucasian country while we exterminating people we think are not pure and whatever, and come and beat the pants off us? Okay? So what I am saying is that it is a responsibility of ours. When you look, I don't want to, I have said on this radio show over and over and repeatedly that for the Bahamas, you can do the math, you do the math, and look at the size of our population compared to United States, Mexico, Canada, Australia, Japan, India, China. We are microscopic to those countries. So therefore, us even forget about being qualified to go to the Olympics. for us even thinking about qualifying should be, in a sense of the word, impossible. When Dermot Knowles and Mr. Cook won the first Olympic gold medal that the Bahamas ever had, I mean, you had that for years and years and years. And then, of course, if you look now, I don't know the amount of gold medals we have, but we got, hey, we got one stock of gold medals, we got silver medals, we got bronze medals. So what in the devil is going on? What in the devil is going on? Why don't we have that in business? Why don't we have that in medical hospitals? Why don't we have that as a country? Why don't we have that? We don't. And what it tells me is that in other fields, we got some notable doctors, no question at all, notable doctors, notable surgeons and whatever else, right? But what I'm saying to you, that the discipline, the amount of effort that is required, and the encouragement, the facilitation. So we need to convert the Olympic environment to cover all environments in the Bahamas. Now, I dwelt on business last week to some extent. And so I would say to you that an entrepreneur should be an Olympic star because he is achieving the same results. He or she is going after gold. And they must be given the ability to train. And I'm saying this, in let's say, when I say train, I don't mean train. I don't mean that. But whatever it takes for an Olympic person or someone going to the Olympics, there is needed in our society the same thing for the persons who want to build this country up. The persons who want to say that they can bank, go to Long Island and put their money in the bank. You hear people talk about Andros and people talk about this place. That has got to be the most ridiculous thing imaginable. And so going back, I started talking about Africa, but going back to Africa, this is going to be something revisited many, many times over. And it's going to be really, really interesting to see what comes out of this whole thing. This is not a political exercise. This is a business and a commercial exercise. These are persons coming to our country that can say, if someone is doing business this way, we do business that way. And I'm telling you, there's some serious flaws and conditions in this country that are being tolerated that, in my opinion, should not be tolerated. I mean, 50 years ago, it would be quite common to understand that if PAA, Pan American Airways, just for argument's sake, and I can throw BOAC at you too, British Overseas Airline Airways Corporation, right? And to say that, say, let's say Eastern Airlines, for God's sakes, that of course was headquartered in Miami. Let's say, okay, fine, we want to fly from Palm Beach to New York. So the government says, okay, no problem. But of course, that's an extremely lucrative route. You gotta fly from some godforsaken little small town with an airport, or at least one has an airport, into another one not so popular. So we can give you the breast of the chicken, but we can also give you the neck of the chicken. So therefore, in our country, we should be able to negotiate and say that, okay, who's going to step to the plate and provide service for Long Island, provide service for Andros, and banking, because see, you know, there's been very little talked about this, but I really feel, I really feel for these persons living in those islands. I really feel for them, because I can tell you right now, I lived in Long Island in 1970, and Scotiabank would fly two persons from Nassau to Stella Maris to stay for a few hours and fly them back. Well, the plane stayed there. So you can imagine that cost a couple of dollars. That was the use of the plane for the whole day. I'm not sure what it cost, but it didn't cost a couple pennies. And plus, I remember Richard Walker, who was the manager of Marlborough branch of Scotiabank, who was a manager, and he came to Long Island for a few hours. Really nice guy. So you forward, that was 1970. So you forward to 2024, and you can tell me, for God's sakes, that we don't have a bank in Long Island? No, that is unacceptable. That's impossible. Why? Why don't we have that? Why don't we have it in Andros? There's something wrong with that. I got a little bit off the track there, but I'm going to finish off the African part of my program by saying I look forward to this happening. I look forward to what can come out of it. I look forward that this will now be something we can hold on to create that link, not a link of smartness and foolishness and BS. I'm not talking about that link. I ain't talking about that link. I am talking about a genuine link that we can now look at each other in the face and say, let us help each other. Let us now see how things can happen. You pay $4,000 sometimes for a container out of Florida, and a container out of the Dubai to Nassau is $7,000. So what is the cost of a full 40-foot container out of, I know Africa is a huge area, right? And the closer you are to the Bahamas, maybe the cheaper it'll be. But nevertheless, what is it? What are the products? Now, I want to say something else before I close out on Africa, right? A number of years ago, having a food store, I thought to myself, now, you know what? I would love to import fruit and vegetables. But I saw these huge mangoes. I saw the other mangoes. And I go to Florida and see them. Well, they came from Haiti. The Florida bought them from Haiti. So I went to our friendly government through customs, or agriculture. Oh, we don't bring nothing out of Haiti. End of story. We don't import nothing from Haiti. So I was like, you know what? That's strange because I know the mango I'm buying in the food store in Nassau is from Haiti. So what's going on? So what it really was the fact that they were cleaning houses. And I found this out through the American embassy, quite frankly. But they're not, well, there are cleaning houses in Haiti. And the mangoes or other produce is cleaned, sent to Florida, and then sent to the Bahamas. That's the way it works. Simple as that. That's the way it works. So if we don't have collaboration, then how do we go ahead? Now, I want to remind, and not remind anyone really, but I want to say to you too, that I know a number of years ago, Dr. Dr. Newry, well, he's a notable brain surgeon, and Dr. Newry was ambassador for Haiti. And I was a part of a group of persons in which the government was asking us to please try and find a way, because, you know, what they were trying to do, and it was a good idea. It was a very good idea. It was saying, okay, fine. You're coming to the Bahamas, don't come to the Bahamas. But you know what, we can come over there and we're going to lease property and we're going to farm, not to sell the product in the Bahamas, in Haiti, but to export that to the Bahamas and maybe other countries. So we had several meetings at the British Hotel, and you know, it didn't get anywhere. I don't remember why, but it didn't get anywhere. And of course, that was a stab toward fixing it up. But I was down in Santo Domingo not that long ago, and I see on the street a piece of not Eddie, but not sweet potato, but the other one that would cost $25, and now so it was $2 down there. And there again, you can't get an answer. You can't get an answer. And so this red tape and this inability to move ahead, we're talking about high prices and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We need to look at that. And these government agencies need to announce that they are now willing to accommodate persons to come in who have ideas and who, you know, want to be different, change the market. Instead of it going from Haiti to Florida and the Bahamas, it come from Haiti to the Bahamas. Instead of going from Santo Domingo to Florida, it come from Santo Domingo to the Bahamas. And so I am not, you know, I'm one voice, and certainly I will continue to talk. But I would wish that this type of what should I say, not so much to be an exclusive type thing for one group of people, but for across the board to allow persons to know what they can do, and that there's dialogue, there's the ability to come in and exercise your ideas, because for lack of that, many sectors of our community is suffering. So going back, it's all started about Africa again, about having stuff come from Africa. So to my mind, when this event takes place next weekend, I'm hoping that this sort of thing, I know it's an export-import bank type thing, but this type of thing can be brought to the surface of what is being manufactured in Africa. You know, what is the benefit of doing business in Africa? What is African tourism? What is, and going back to my pet idea of the fact that I believe, you know, we can go and talk all this, I wouldn't call it foolishness, but you can start saying all about this African thing as much as you want to. But why don't we be bold enough to get one of these islands and really do the thing? Okay, getting a little, go on, Jason, start playing. When you start playing, buddy, I'm gonna stop. But you play a little while first and listen to some music, man. Go ahead. Yeah, you see, I want to hear that music come on. Okay, that's my break now. That's my another break. Okay, thank you very much. Coming back to my little advertisement. Okay, and today I want to include ad, not an ad, but a mention of a business on Faith Avenue that I truly admire. I mean, I really admire it. Really, I mean, I'm not going to say I envy it, but I can say as a business person, I really admire the business, right? It's a place called Tasty Caribbean, and they're on Faith Avenue, just south of Ballard Road on the left-hand side. Now, you know, I'm not going to knock any other businesses, right? But I'm going to tell you right now, without calling any names, I know of a particular restaurant that I would go to. Well, I went to it all of twice, okay? And the food was really lousy. And that was their regular food. That wasn't I had a bad experience because of somebody who was angry or whatever else. This was just the food they normally sold, in my opinion, deserved to be in the garbage, okay? But Tasty Caribbean and the force behind that, Mr. Gilbert and his wife, right, is certainly an exception. I mean, extraordinary place to go into. And I've been in there several times. As a matter of fact, the last time I was in there, it was during the holiday. I was just, first I was surprised they were open during a holiday, but I was shocked. To see Rose. I'm on my radio show. I'll call you back, okay? And so, first of all, they were open. I was surprised. Okay, it's holiday, they open, right? But secondly, the crowds lining up. And the line up of food, of Bahamian hot cooked food, was extraordinary. And the service was extraordinary. Everybody wearing, hats and stuff like that, or caps to, and clean, pristine and clean, and bright and functional. And I said, well, boy, you know what? Bahamians can do it. Bahamians really can do it. And, I single that place out because from doing my radio show, I will spotlight businesses in the area, including my business, to say that these are businesses you have to recognize. Now, I do know also too that they have created something out past the airport, right on your left hand side, past the water factory. And, you know, I imagine that they have everything out there you can get at the one on Faith Avenue South. So they're really, really doing a good job. Stacy's Caribbean, Tasty Delight, Tasty Caribbean Delight. And they're on Faith Avenue South, just past Ballard Road, left hand side of the road, 2-story building. And you got to go there. You got to go there. You got to go there. I'm sure they have a website. I'm sure they're online. I'm sure they make deliveries. But they have some serious Bahamian food. And you'll be doing yourself a good favor to get all their contacts. And when you want to put your feet up in the air and say, I ain't cooking tonight, you know, call Tasty Delight. Right, boy? Hey, you know what? I think we just coined something. I ain't cooking tonight. Call Tasty Delight. How about that? Okay, thumbs up. Thank you very much. But anyhow, give them a shout because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And I can't say, I shouldn't say they deliver, but you Google them. Google them. And I'm almost sure they do deliver. Okay, really good stuff, and they got all this. I mean, everything you can imagine: breakfast, boil, the whole 9 yards, and extraordinary. So here's that music coming back, that Super Soco. I want to tell you something about that. When I go back to my show, and I'm back to my show, Peter Roker, Global Talk. Good to be with you. Boy, time is flying by. It's 1:05. I get about 25 more minutes here. I can get about 28 minutes because Jason put me out another 3 minutes. I cheap, you know. People say, boy, I like you, Peter, but you're cheap. Well, that's my nature. Okay, Peter Roker, Global Talk, Global Radio, 99.5 FM in the Bahamas, in Nassau, Bahamas, okay? And the phone numbers here is 326-0271, 326-0272. My phone number is 424-0749. Please feel free to call me anytime or during the show, anytime, okay? And be more than happy to take your call. It's funny when I say Global Talk or the Global Radio 99.5 in Nassau, what a lot of us don't, I think a lot of us do not understand that we live on the island of New Providence. And it's only the city that is Nassau. I forget what the boundaries are. Of course, obviously the boundaries would be the harbor. And it goes a certain distance west and a certain distance east, and of course a certain distance south. So when you say you live in Nassau and you're living out by South Beach, you don't live in Nassau, you live in New Providence. South Beach, you may be able to say South Beach, New Providence, okay? But that's like a hidden secret, okay? Now, I really dwelled into farming, but that was one of the articles or things I wanted to talk about. And I'll expand on that a little more. And that is to say that saying that you can buy stuff out of Haiti or saying that you can buy stuff out of Santo Domingo, also there is a phenomenal amount of Bahamian farmers that is doing an excellent job in farming and providing the country with a serious amount of farm product under very, very strenuous conditions. Now, I'm really, Sungrow Farms and Nurseries is a business I've had for quite a number of years. I love my little farming too, but I don't, as yet, I intend to, but as yet, I don't have a full-scale big farm. But I will say that during the course of one of the agricultural meetings of which I belong to, a farmers association, we had some discussions, and I said to them, very bluntly, that the farmers in this country should seek to take over the Gladstone Road operation, because I felt it makes a lot of sense. I feel it makes a lot of sense. In as much as my feeling about that operation, whether it's a PLP government, whether it's an FNM government, that's the only governments we've had since independence, it is a complete failure. It has been a complete failure. Now, I'm not saying that it can be changed. It cannot be changed. Okay, and I see some new ideas out there, and those ideas I would venture to be could be, if that's something that say government is sponsoring, right? That could be a separate thing they're doing. But overall, when you talk about the feed plant, when you talk about making feed and the cost effectiveness of making feed and the ability to keep feed in stock and the other things, I believe that a company, whether you want to call it a cooperative or whatever, but I believe those persons who are in the farming business could do a much better job. I remember going out when the Produce Exchange was out by Ski, and going in back there. I think it was an F&M government at the time. Man, you see the tomatoes and things going to waste, and then you go on the PLP government, the same thing. Okay, and so it's like when you own a business, and I've been there and done that. When you own a business and you see, well, Jesus, you know what? Something ain't right here. The other guy down the road doing quite well, I doing wrong. You know what? This is not the kind of business me to be in. And I believe, and I truly believe, that this is now where that segment of the farming industry is where it will be a lot more cost effective and better for the country and better for the people for a board or company consisting of farmers. Some might be farming for yam. I meant to mention that was yam I was talking about. So cheap in San Domingo. Some might be cane, some might be coconut, some might be everything, and some might be better at handling the business affairs of a farm. But if you put those components together, I believe you could end up with quite a force to make that sector of our agricultural interests work, because it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. I don't have any animals. I did one time ago. I had some pigs one time ago, and you go on there, and it wasn't effective. It wasn't cost effective. Okay, so I'm not going to be here criticizing it. That's unnecessary. We all got eyes to see, and we know that, hey, listen, animal feed is required to feed animals. It's required in a very cost-effective way. Are there any things that we can grow here to supplement the feed? Where's the innovation? Where's the imagination? Where's the attempt to change the game? And government might say, okay, guys, this crazy guy on the radio is talking about giving the farmers access to, say, 200 acres of property in Gladstone Road. Man must be crazy. And he's saying, take over agriculture and Gladstone Road. But they might say, okay, there might be some sense to that. But let's give 30 acres of property and the feed mill. Let's try them. These guys think they're bigoty. They think they're bigoty. Let's give them a try. Temporary. Let's give them a try. Okay? And let's see what we can do. So, I think something has to be done. Now, that is my idea as to how it can be done. But there might be many, many other options out there. But the key word here is, for God's sakes, get it done. Get it done. Get it done. Because, you know, when I lived in Long Island, I was the first one to bring a commercial grits mill into the Bahamas. Prior to that, which was a beautiful way of grinding corn, was a hand mill. You go like that. Okay, that's all that existed in the country prior to me bringing in the first motorized grits mill. Now, I can even tell you the company I bought it from because I believe they still exist. And the name was C like Charlie, S like Sam, Bell, C.S. Bell. And they were out of Ohio. Google it, you'll see. And I Googled it a few, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and they were still in the business of selling different types of mills, small ones up to huge ones. The then government, which would have been the PLP, because it was quite a number of years ago, a good friend of mine from agriculture called me and he said, well, Peter, man, listen, he was beating around the bush and stuff like that. And I finally said, man, listen, you think you have any problem giving me, let me know where you bought your milk from? I was happy to make that. I was elated to give him the address. Elated, totally elated. And so the grits mills you would have seen in Clarence Town, you would have seen in O'Neill's in Long Island, you would have seen in Cat Island, and you've seen everywhere you saw, and they were huge grits mills, huge. And they came from that same company. They came from the address that I had given to my friend in agriculture. The biggest mistake the government made is, for God's sakes, they ran it themselves. And they ran it right into the ground. I mean, you do yourself a favor and go in O'Neill's right now and going north, rather, go to the north side. On the left-hand side, a certain distance, there's probably the rusted iron of that agricultural building probably still exists. And more than likely, the rusted remnants of the grist mill probably exist. But you see, when I applied for my mill, which I said on the show before, by the time I was refused duty-free exemption, the storage of my mill was greater than the duty. And that knocked me in the chest, where I said, the hell with it. I'm not going to go. I can't go ahead now and try and enter this business. But you know what my dream was? My dream, I had it all designed. As a matter of fact, Dodie Deal's wife in Millerton, Long Island, lovely. They were a fantastic couple, and they were quite elderly at the time. And their son, by the way, adopted son, is Glenn Adderley, good friend of mine. His son Freddie is a pilot. And they're all very, very good people, but Glenn was only a little boy. And so what I did is I went to the Deals, Dodie Deal, that was his nickname. I think his name was Joseph, but in any event, he was known as Dodie, and his lovely wife, who looked exactly how you would expect a Out Island, Long Island woman to look. Same kind of dress and same size, etc., etc., etc. And so I took a photograph of her on the corn mill, grinding the corn. I made plans to buy bags, put that picture on it, put a name, I forget what the name would be. And I would be selling corn grits, manufacturing corn grits in Long Island. And my plan would have been to go to a farmer and say, listen, you plant your corn, I'll pay you X amount of dollars an acre. You just plant it, grow it, and we'll harvest it. Okay? And my intention was to also get a shredder, a big enough grinder, okay? And all those corn stalks all the carbs, which there would be many of, I would grind up and add supplements for animal feed. There's a cycle. And of course, back in the day when you went in the market on Bay Street, when the market was there, produce, fish, and meat was there. When you bought like grits, now unfortunately I didn't have enough sense. I should tell anybody else. I didn't have enough sense to realize. And then they use those big fanners. They would be getting rid of the most important part of the grits, which was the shaft. That shaft is 1,000% fibro. Okay, so anyhow, but there was enough of it left in the grits, which made the grits extremely nutritious. And so what we'd be doing is we'd be making the grits, using the stalks, using the carbs, grind them up, put supplements for animal feed, and then selling the other stuff as a what did I say? Put in a drugstore and sell it as not as a vitamin. There's another word for it, but as a nutrient of some sort, right? And so, or use it for cooking and to enhance your food you're making, right? But the idea, the dream that I had was to make that a reality and make a circle. We got the mill, we got the shredder, other people got the animals. You go ahead and we say, okay, fine, and I could grow to where I might come. You got 20 acres. Okay, we'll buy the corn from that. You plant the corn, you weed it out. When it gets certain high, we'll bring a machine in, cut it down, take the whole thing off, and pay you for it. Pay you by the acre, by the lot, or whatever. So what I'm saying here to you today is that I know the pain and the struggle and the fight that farmers in the Bahamas is going through. And I can vouch for the fact that they are resilient. These people is like the moss that gathers on a rock with those monstrous waves hitting it, but still grows and grows and grows and grows. I mean, these people get robbed, they get shot at, they get all types of atrocious things happening to them, but yet they don't give up. And really, I admire them. Oh yeah, I might say I'm a member of. You a farmer too, Peter? Eh? Yeah, I'm a farmer, but I can't hold a candle to these people, man. I mean, if you want to know the truth, I can't hold a candle to them, man. These people are hardworking, and for God's sakes, the idea of doing something, the idea of let their imagination, let their ability to go out there and make things happen. And I'm gonna be. I was talking to a farmer in Andros, and I'm gonna be selling coconut water, or try to at my location for my station coming soon, Roker's gas station. But now I'm worried about where am I going to get the coconuts from? I want to do cane juice. Where am I going to get the cane juice from, for Christ's sakes? Where am I going to get it from? Okay? And so, if I can give any advice, constructive advice, I would say, for God's sakes, let these people go. Let them go. Let these people go. They're innovative. They're hardworking. They can work from 5 o'clock in the morning until dusk. They get up and go and check the chicken coops when the freaking snakes come by. These people are assets to this country. And I believe that it's been a terrible mistake happening where any government is not dashing to them and say, for God's sakes, take this feed mill over. For whatever you do, take this thing over. Now, that is not a finished subject because I'm going to come back to that. I was hoping to have a guest on my show today from the Farmers Association, but the person I called wasn't available. So I'll contact someone else or contact them again. But hopefully, my next show, I'll have somebody here because this is something that needs to be continued. And this is something that needs to be pursued. Okay, we're 6 minutes away. Boy, time goes by fast. Hey, it's scary, man. Scary. I came here 5 minutes ago, and it's almost an hour and a half later. I got some surprises now for people. If you go around the roundabout at Fire Trail Road, Samalabella Highway, and Faith Avenue, you'll see my sign for my new service station is now got me on the sign saying Roker's gas station. All I want to say, coming soon. Okay, coming soon, coming soon, coming soon. I really appreciate your patience, and I'm looking forward to serving you as usual. I'm looking forward to to being what I had on Carmichael Road. I sold that in 2019, but I'm hoping to get back in that environment where I can see you again and give you that service you're accustomed to. Okay, so have patience, but help is on the way. Okay. Now, there's one thing I want to turn to, and I won't be able to devote all the time that I need to devote to it at this session, right? But is this traffic in Nassau, New Providence? The traffic is crazy. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Crazy. And the other thing, too, I saw in the newspapers the other day a letter to the editor where someone was questioning why there are so many vehicles on the road that only have perhaps one license plate, if any at all. Why? And I just made a little game up when I was on the road the other day and started to count. And in a very short period of time, I counted 3 vehicles. Now, mind you, I may have only seen the back. I didn't see the front. But I counted at least, in a matter of minutes, I counted at least three vehicles that had no license plates. And I'm hearing, if I'm to believe what I'm hearing, that there's a humongous percentage of vehicles not insured. Not insured. Now, we may kind of like move over that without too much concern, right? Because we're insured. But when somebody hits you and puts you in a hospital on a deathbed, what does that mean? But they don't have any insurance. What does it mean? You need to find out what it means. My understanding of the law is where you're insured, the next car is not insured. Is your insurance going to pay for your being in? I don't know. Maybe it will. I don't know. But certainly, you better ask the question before you end up in the hospital. Yesterday afternoon, I was driving on Pinewood Road. I stopped to buy I stopped to see the fisherman who I bought some conchs from the day before. And this car came by on that road doing at least 80 miles an hour. Okay? 80 miles an hour. And people are doing stupid things, absolutely stupid things. And there's no excuse for this. Don't put no excuse on this. But I'm saying stupid things. These motorbikes are doing, they need to go out to wherever they have a road, maybe the hot waters or whatever, and do that stuff. But that is totally unacceptable on the road. If I remember correctly, and I don't want to be, I'm going back by memory, number of years ago, but I knew Mr. Monroe. I think he was a brother of Miles Monroe. And if I remember correctly, a motorbike crashed into him and killed him. Went through his windshield and killed him. And this had to be about maybe 20 years ago. Got to be about 20 years ago. And so when you're driving on the road and someone is screaming on that road, doing a wheelie, and not only doing a wheelie, but standing up on the seat, that's foolishness, man. That's foolishness. That is absolute foolishness. Okay? And it cannot be acceptable. The noise of some of these motorbikes cannot be acceptable. It cannot be. They drive by you and you jump on your skin. It's noise pollution. That's what it is. A vehicle, and they do this with impunity as if they are saying, hey, there's nothing wrong with it. How many times have you been driving and someone passes you by and gets in front of you and has a cloud of smoke that totally engulfed your car? I have to stop and put my windows down and wait. But why are they able to do this with impunity? It doesn't make any sense. And I'm not going to speculate as to why they are able to do it, but I am going to say to you, it is unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. And I did offer solutions, my ideas, and they may not be good solutions, but to me, cameras that the algorithms of a camera giving a license number or description of a car can go to a database and AI can pull it up and say that car belongs to Peter Roker. Here's his phone number, here's his address, and you got to do something about it. So we have the technology nowadays to deal with these sort of things. But nonetheless, whether we had the technology or not, it is still unacceptable that people can do all this foolishness on the road. And what is so terrible is the fact they feel they're doing nothing wrong. Every single day that I drive on the road, I can have 4 or 5 accidents. You know what that means? That means me laying up in the hospital or getting killed. And what it means more so is my family, my friends, the general public being exposed to this nonsense, foolishness. And so I would advise that we get on top of this foolishness. That's all it is foolishness. And it really has to stop because, you know, the injury involved is totally unacceptable. Listen, this is Peter Roker, Global Talk on Global Radio 99.5, signing out. Happy to be with you. I do hope that what I said could give you a laugh or could help you in some way. That's what I meant to do, okay? Thank you very much, and God willing, I'll see you next week on Global Radio at 12 o'clock. I'll ask Jason next week, please don't let the time go by so quick. I can't believe that's hey, anyhow, thank you very much. All the best. Take care.
Let's go boy, me a super soaker. This guy think guy's a joker. Take off your shoes and soaker.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not